Now you can act like the Bulls dynasty always benefited from these expansions, but the truth is they were actually hurt by it in some instances. For example, BJ Armstrong was one of the best three-point shooters in the entire league, and had just been an NBA All-Star the year prior. But because of the expansion draft in 1995, he was taken from the Bulls with the first overall pick.
All right, welcome back to the show, everyone. Hope you all having a good day so far. So, this is kind of a follow-up to me being on that Johnny Arnett podcast. I read through the comments on Johnny's channel. But first of all, I also read through the comments on my channel. Thank you guys. Like, I never imagined reading through so many positive and kind comments like that. Blown away. Thank you guys so much for that. But okay, so I was reading in Johnny's comments, and everyone's going at Dario, especially for his watered down take of the 90s because of the expansion teams, that whole narrative going on. So a little birdie named Arnett let me know that he did a video. Let's see how long ago it was. It was 11 months ago. He did a video responding to JJ Redick. I'll read the title. JJ Redick says the 90s were watered down. Is he right? All right, so Johnny's already broken this down. I have not actually seen this video, so I'm excited to react to it with you guys. So he let me know he did this video a while ago and that he should make Dario watch it. I'm like, dude, let's push it out. So I'll react to it and let's get even more traction to this. So that's what we're doing right here. One, I wanted to see what this is, and two, probably after this, Dario needs to watch this too, because just throwing out random numbers like, oh, well, he would have had 15 less wins and blah, blah, blah. Like, dude, I don't think that's the case. I don't think they were playing expansion teams 15 times throughout the season. And anyways, let's see what the meat and potatoes is on this. As I always do, I'm going to link the original video down below in the description for you guys. That's from Johnny Arnett. And like the vid, all that good stuff. Let's see what this is all about. Here we go.
It's one of the reasons that LeBron is so great. I refuse to get into the GOAT debate. I don't care. They didn't play against each other. I do not care. What makes him great, well, a bunch of things, but what has made him great is the fact that he's done it now for 21 years at the highest level. I think it's fair to just say there are different tiers of greatness. By the way, a lot of times we're comparing eras, we're comparing different rules, we're comparing the fact that, look, like I'll say this with Michael Jordan, and I don't mean this to be controversial.
By the way, real quick, this hits different now that he got the job, that he got the head coach job, because man, we all knew it the whole time. This man was campaigning the whole time, trying to get the damn job. He even did a podcast with LeBron. Like, oh my God, the amount of work JJ did. I mean, it's kind of weasel work, but the amount of ass kissing he did in order to get this job, wow, 10 out of 10, John. JJ. JJ.
Like, everybody talks about all these, the context of this era. Michael Jordan, the Dallas Mavericks were added as the 23rd team in 1981. Jordan was drafted. During his heyday, 6 teams were added to the NBA. There were 90 players added to the NBA. Does that not water down? I'm not talking playoffs, by the way. No chance we're talking playoffs. Does that not water down the regular season to a degree? You lived it, right? You played against some of those teams. You played against the Bobcats.
For your guys' info, there's more teams in the NBA now than ever. Of course, that's how it always should go. For a successful league, at least. The league is successful. Every so many years, we have expansion teams. The league grows. By the way, the league is about to expand even further. There's, I think, 3 expansion teams coming in the very near future. So this argument to me never made sense anyways, because the very first thing I did was look up how many teams there were in the 90s, look up how many teams there are now, and I'm like, well, it's more watered down now than ever. So just shut up with the argument, JJ. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
If we add 2 teams in 2 or 3 years, we get a Vegas franchise or a Seattle franchise, you're not telling me that the league for a little bit is going to be a little watered down?
Maybe a little bit.
So as you just
So are we going to punish every generation then? Because at some point or another, when the league expands to more teams, we just going to punish those teams. Whoever wins championships during that era, be like, yeah, well, it's watered down because you got a couple expansion teams during that time. Like what's about to happen in the near future, 3 expansion teams coming. Are we going to discredit all the champions during that decade because there's expansion teams? I don't think we are. This is just a hit piece against Michael Jordan. And this guy, obviously, JJ, proving, I want to say he's part of Clutch, but I'd imagine he's probably part of Clutch.
saw, JJ Redick is back at it again, dropping some of those controversial takes that are sure to rile people up.
Yeah, like the
while
plumber's
literally
fireman.
claiming that he's not trying to be controversial.
Right.
In this one clip, he mentioned that he doesn't care about the GOAT conversation at all. And then he immediately followed it up by taking a shot specifically at Jordan's era.
Yeah.
As for myself,
I don't like it, man. At least when I'm taking a shot at somebody, I make it clear I'm taking a shot at somebody. You know, I'm not like, oh, I don't want to talk about the GOAT debate, but let's talk about the GOAT debate. Like, come on now. If you're going to do it, just do it.
personally, I no longer get frustrated with JJ's takes about old school eras. Because to be completely honest, the shade is kind of expected at this point. After starting a podcast with LeBron James,
Yeah.
and after the rumors swirling about the Lakers head coaching spot,
Yep, you know.
it doesn't surprise me in the slightest that JJ is saying things that supports his friend and his fellow podcaster. But the question is, with all of that being said, does the man have a point? Was the 90s actually a watered down era? And is that a legitimate criticism when looking at the GOAT debate? Today, I'll do my best to answer that, as I explain the details of how the expansion worked.
Awesome.
Starting things off, let's look at the basics of how the league expanded. At the end of the 1987 to 1988 NBA season, there were 23 teams in the league. With the popularity of the game reaching record heights, the league office desired to expand their product and bring more NBA teams to more cities, which would naturally and dramatically increase revenue over time. Between the 88 to 89 season and the 95 to 96 season, the league added 6 more teams, which increased the total number.
Oh, so 88, 89. So that means we need to discredit the Detroit Pistons now. They're back-to-back championships. We need to take that away now because there were expansion teams during that time. Forget the fact that they had to beat Magic Johnson and the Lakers in the finals. Just forget about that. They had to beat another Hall of Famer and Clyde Drexler. Doesn't matter because these teams are out there. These expansion teams are out there. So who cares what the NBA finals look like? You know, it's all watered down. It doesn't matter anyways. See how stupid this is? By the way, I'm glad I'm watching this because I'm about to learn some stuff here. So 3 teams, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, in the late 80s. And then we're going to get, Raptors and Vancouver here.
Of
in the mid-90s.
franchises to 29. Those teams were the Miami Heat and the Charlotte Hornets in 1988, the Minnesota Timberwolves.
By the way, all this does show is that during the Bird, Magic, and Jordan era, and I'll throw in Dr. J in there as well, and Kareem was still holding down the fort, the league was getting more popular. So we were able to expand to have more teams. And then so much so, it's crazy. It's the timing. The timing's crazy. But yeah, Jordan in the 90s made the league even more popular. So they were able to expand even further. It's actually a positive thing to expand like this.
And the Orlando Magic in 1989, and the Toronto Raptors and the Vancouver Grizzlies in 1995. Now here's the thing, most people...
By the way, by the mid-90s, let's see, you were a title contender, you were going deep into the playoffs, so were you. Minnesota, you didn't quite figure it out until you got KG, but that was like third quarter of the 90s that he was drafted. What, like 95, I think is when he was drafted. So really they're included on there too. Raptors didn't get their crap figured out until later on, and same with the Grizzlies. So 1, 2, 3, 4 out of these 6 teams were actually contenders. How ironic.
don't even understand how these teams were formulated.
Excuse me.
Contrary to popular belief, they weren't just picking up random water boys and semi-athletic fans out of the stands. But first and foremost, the expansion teams were able to pick players from the other 23 teams in the league. But obviously, they couldn't just pick any players that they wanted. Otherwise, an expansion team would become an overpowered super team in their first season.
Yeah, it would be a 2K sim.
There were specific rules in place for the expansion draft. And the first one is that each pre-existing team in the league could protect up to 8 players on their roster. But after that, everyone else was up for grabs. The second major rule was that each team in the league would only give up 1 player in order to form the 2 expansion teams.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, this wouldn't leave many immediate all-stars for the expansion teams to select, but they were able to get some quality pieces, like the famous enforcer Rick Mahorn, the prolific scorer Reggie Theus, and the NBA's record holder for the most assists in a single game,
Yeah, what was it?
Scott Skiles.
What do you get, 30?
Now you can act like the Bulls dynasty always benefited from these expansions, but the truth is they were actually hurt by it in some instances. For example, BJ Armstrong was one of the best 3-point shooters in the entire league, and had just been an NBA All-Star the year prior. But because of the expansion draft in 1995, he was taken from the Bulls with the first overall pick.
Whoa. They didn't protect BJ. I didn't know this one. Holy crap. That was a huge loss. That's your starting point guard. And actually he was like peaking at this point. Like he was playing really good. 94, 95, he played, or 93, 94, he played fantastic. I didn't know that's how I always wondered why I thought BJ left. I thought BJ got a bigger contract. Wow. So no, they got hurt by this.
Severely weakening the strength of Chicago's roster. So ultimately, an important detail to remember is that the expansion teams were made up of quality NBA players, and it was the responsibility of the other 23 teams, Bulls included, to then fill their roster spot, with either a player from the draft or through free agency. So now that we understand how the expansion teams were created, and that it wasn't just a collection of scrubs like JJ Redick.
Wow, look at BJ right there, number 1. Yeah, that's a good pick. I'm curious why they didn't protect him. Maybe it was a money thing. Maybe he was asking for more money, and they're like, well, this way we can get you to a new home. But I'm actually Greg Anthony. Oh yeah, okay. That's the Raptors. So the Raptors took Greg Anthony at number 1. Good pick. Gerald Wilkins over there. Willie Anderson, good pick. Huh.
Redick makes it seem
Jerome Kersey, good pick. Sorry.
Time for me to make my next major point. Expansion teams typically don't stay awful for very long.
Yeah, they don't.
The NBA is constructed in such a way where it's a league that tries to naturally maintain a competitive balance. Although expansion teams don't have many all-star level players in their first season, they do start accumulating top draft lottery picks rather quickly, thanks to their low seeding. And it's also
they end up with a ton of good draft picks, and then because of the expansion, like Johnny just showed there, because of the expansion draft, they get some seasoned veterans in there as well. It's a good start to a franchise, actually. I think they've always done a good job with the expansions, because any decently run organization, they don't look like an expansion team after the first 3 or 4 years. You know, they grow fast, and we see them in the playoffs often. At least we did back then. We'll see how the next batch of expansions go.
Worth mentioning that they usually have plenty of cap space to make moves in the offseason. Sure, the Charlotte Hornets began playing in the 88-89 season, but by the 92-93 season, they had a stacked roster with stars like Alonzo Mourning, Larry Johnson,
Muggsy,
and Kendall Gill, and made it all the way to the Eastern Conference semifinals. The Miami Heat also began playing in the 88-89 season, but they were a playoff team by the 91 to 92 season.
I'm glad he's showing you guys this too, because that was my first thought when I saw the lineup of teams. I was like, well, 3 years you're in the playoffs, 2 years you're in the playoffs, so you're actually one of the better teams in the league already. To call them to claim that they're watering down the league is silly if they're making the playoffs.
And by the 96 to 97 season, they were legitimate title contenders, who were stacked with all-stars, won 61 games, and made it all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. Then you had the Orlando Magic and the Minnesota Timberwolves, who began playing in the 89 to 90 season. Yes, the Wolves were bad, and stayed bad for a long time.
Yeah, until KG.
But at this point, I think we can tell that this was mostly because of bad management.
Yep.
And not necessarily because they were an expansion team.
Like I said, all the decently run organizations were fine. But yeah, there's a couple of bad seeds in here.
The Orlando Magic were able to get guys like Shaquille O'Neal and Penny Hardaway because of their low seeding. And by 1994, they were legitimate title contenders. They were the only team to eliminate Jordan's Bulls after they begun winning championships. And the Magic even went on to the NBA Finals in 1995.
Yeah, I remember in that podcast, I was trying to yell it out at a certain point. Like, the fact that, that one of these expansion teams was a 60-win team. That's Orlando. I was trying to say. And then, they lost to them one year, but then the Bulls swept them. So you're talking about a 60-win team who's, can burst a narrative of, these expansion teams watered down the league. Did they? Because they're one of the best teams in the league right now, the Orlando Magic were. And the fact that the Bulls swept them, it's like you can just say, they're an expansion team. What? They were just in the NBA Finals the year prior. Like, it just, it's just crazy.
So what I just explained is that 3 out of those first 4 expansion teams were not only decent, but were extremely competitive within a few years. Yep. Before the Bulls even started their second three-peat, 3 out of those 4 teams
were...
Wow,
guys, can I highlight this pass? You got MJ going for the block.
For the Bulls,
look at Penny, man.
Started
look at that dish. Man, young Penny, pre-injury Penny. Nothing quite like it.
Second three-peat, 3 out of those 4 teams were legitimate obstacles for Chicago. Now for the last 2 expansion teams, you have the Toronto Raptors and the Vancouver Grizzlies, who began playing basketball in the 95 to 96 season. And yes, those 2 teams did stay awful throughout the entirety of the Bulls' second three-peat. So here's what you need to consider.
How many times did they play? How many times did they play these 2 teams? Because the playoff teams, those don't count. Those are actual contenders. But these 2 trash ass teams that came out of Canada, they started out rough. I hope you do it, Johnny. I hope you do it. How many times did they play the Bulls?
In the 95 to 96 season, where the Bulls famously finished with a 72-10 record, the Grizzlies were in the West and the Raptors were in the East. And that record-breaking regular season, the Bulls had a 2-0 record against the Grizzlies and a 3-1 record against the Raptors.
So there it is.
Now, if those expansion teams...
There it is. So, 2 plus 4, so 6 games. 6 games. Okay, but what was
Grizzlies
2-0?
And a 3-1 record against the Raptors.
3-1. Okay. So they actually lost one of these. That's crazy. All right, so what we got? We got 5 wins. You want to take off the board? You want to just take those 5 wins off the board? Turn this into 67 and 15, and they won the championship? Does this change anything? I don't think this changes anything.
Now, if those expansion teams didn't exist, and those 5 victories were against regular NBA teams instead, then yeah, it's at least possible that the Bulls win less games, and maybe they finish
Hold up. Just bear with me for 1 second, you guys. That is 6 games, right? 6 games. They won 5 out of 6. What's that? 5 divided by 6 equals 83%. 83%. Bear with me, guys. They actually played worse against the expansion teams than they did against everyone else. 83% is their record against these two expansion teams. 83%. 87.8% is their record against the entire league. So you're telling me they benefited off of this? Looks like they might have gone easy on these guys because their percentage actually went down playing these terrible teams. Okay, ready to move forward.
Against the Raptors. Now, if those expansion teams didn't exist, and those 5 victories were against regular NBA teams instead,
the percentage would have gone up. They might have had 73.
Then yeah, it's at least possible that the Bulls win less games, and maybe they finish with 69 or 70 wins instead of 72.
Or 73.
But I mean, in order for that to happen, you have to assume that the Bulls would have had a 3-3 record against the average NBA team.
Right.
And considering the fact that they went 67-9 against the rest of the league
now you're cooking.
Last season, I would say that that's a pretty big assumption. I think you guys are starting to see my point. The impact that the expansion era had on the Bulls dynasty is negligible when you understand the full context. If you were to go back in time in the summer of 1995 and you were to ask the Bulls management, would they rather keep their sharpshooter BJ Armstrong, or would they rather not have the Toronto Raptors standing in their path in the Eastern Conference? I think their answer would be rather obvious. Of course, they would rather keep their quality player.
Right.
Now imagine, it's 1998, Michael Jordan...
Yeah, that's right. All in all, they got damaged from this because they lost their starting point guard. I can't believe their percentage. That percentage just blows up the entire narrative right there. They actually... They had a worse percentage against the expansion teams than they did the rest of the league. Insane.
Just epically defeated the Utah Jazz with a 45-point performance in Game 6 of the NBA Finals to win his 6th championship and 6th Finals MVP.
Yeah, but all that doesn't matter because the watered down league, so it doesn't matter what Jordan did. We should just take it away. Let's rewrite history.
And in an interview, you get to tell MJ to his face that he's not the greatest player of all time because the Toronto Raptors and the Vancouver Grizzlies exist. Yeah. Someone needs to tell JJ Redick that that's as ridiculous as it sounds.
Yeah. Damn. Good one, man. Good one. Okay. First of all, that whole percentage thing, just like it puts a stat to it that can just make it, this argument should go away. The other thing is, I've always had the stance when it comes to this, that might affect regular season, but who cares? Winning doesn't happen in the regular season. Winning happens in the freaking playoffs. So only the best 16 teams are making it to the playoffs, at least back then. So 16 teams are making it in the playoffs. Those are the best 16 teams in the league with the best record. So this does not matter that there were expansion teams out there. Once game 1 of the first round of the playoffs start, all those teams who sucked, they're all watching, just like the rest of us. So, if we were to force expansion teams into the playoffs for some stupid reason, and that's who the Bulls were beating on their way to the finals, okay, yeah, we'd have a hell of an argument at that point, because then we'd be like, this is watered down, this ain't right, they didn't even beat a real contender, they were beating, imagine if instead of the Bulls beating the Utah Jazz in 97 and 98, they were playing the Grizzlies. Okay, yeah, then we would agree with this narrative and be like, yeah, that was some BS, that was some absolute BS, but that's not the case here at all. It is not the case. Those teams, if they weren't good enough, they were not in the playoffs. So, and anyways, that percentage just changes everything. Johnny, if you're watching this, just make Dario watch that one part where the percentages come into play. I'm curious what Dario has to say about that. If not, maybe next time I'm on, I'm going to bring this back up. All right. Anyways, you guys, I am out of here. Thank you so much for watching. And, yeah, put the comments down below, you guys. Let's just blow this up. Let's blow up this narrative. This is one of the dumbest takes and one of the most like planned takes I've seen somebody get on a podcast. And like he wanted to push this narrative so much because he says, I don't like talking about the GOAT, but let's talk about the GOAT. You know what I mean? And then instead of talking about the GOAT conversation, he's just spreading this narrative about the watered down league. So I'm not buying it. I never did to begin with. You know, whenever these clutch guys go on a podcast, it's the weirdest thing, including LeBron himself. You know within about 10 minutes why they're there, because they actually come in preloaded with a narrative that they want to spread. And JJ's no different. He did it. He got the job. He got what he wanted out of it. And whatever. But like the thing is, I don't feel like we should take those narratives so seriously once we expose the purpose of it. And for the most part, it's either to get a job or it's because they work for Clutch. Therefore, they, you know, it's part of their contract in order to spread this crap. It makes me wonder what like group texts are like within Clutch, because they probably, you know, every day it's like, all right, here's a new narrative, and then everyone go spread it. That's how I feel like it's happening, because once we hear it from one person amongst the Clutch crew, we hear the same narrative being spread throughout the week from everybody else. So I'd say don't put in too much attention to it, but it doesn't matter, I guess, because the LeBron fans like Dario are out there repeating this nonsense, even if it makes zero sense. I don't understand it. They hear the narrative and they just repeat it. It's a weird echo chamber situation with zero research. Anyways, no hate towards Dario. He's such a funny, cool, chill dude. I chill out and have a drink with that guy any day and just talk hoops. We'd probably get into a bunch of arguments, but it would be all in good fun. But yeah, anyways, guys, I'm out of here. Thanks for watching. Like the vid if you haven't done it yet. I'd appreciate it. And actually, this one in particular, because it will, you know, this is a narrative I think that needs to get busted. So let's do our best to bust it. We got to push it out into the algorithm. Subscribe to the channel if you want more content like this. And yeah, be water, my friends.